So now that we talked about a few of the aircraft requirements under Part 107 regulations, let's talk about operating rules. The rules that you must abide by while you fly a drone. So you can fly in Class G airspace unless you have an authorization to fly in controlled airspace. So we'll go over different types of airspaces in the United States in a future video, but right now just know that you can fly in Class G unless you have authorization to fly in controlled. Now, you have to keep the aircraft in visual line of sight. If you have a visual observer, that helps out, so that way you can have line of sight on the drone, and if it's around any kind of obstacles, then they can communicate that with you. So that helps out to have a visual observer, but you must keep your aircraft in visual line of sight. So if you need a waiver to go beyond visual line of sight, that's something that you can look into. But for all Part 107 regulations, just keep that drone in line of sight of you. Also, you must fly under 400 feet. Now, there are some stipulations to this if you are inspecting, for example, a cell phone tower. So let's say the tower that you're flying at is 1,000 feet, then you can fly 400 feet radius of that phone tower, of that cell tower, or you can fly 400 feet above that structure, so then you can go up to 1,400 feet above ground level. So that being said, anytime that you are flying on land, you cannot count the trees. The trees are natural structures, they're not man made structures, so they don't count to be able to fly above them that extended range. So don't count the trees. So when you are flying, stay at 400 feet or below ground level. And then after that, then you can look at what you're inspecting to see if you can stay off of that structure and go a little bit higher. So you must fly during the day, and if you're flying at nighttime, then you have to have the obstacle avoidance lights, the strobing lights, that your drone can be visible from a distance. So we'll go over the specifics of that later on for nighttime flying, but just know that you can fly during the day and close to sunset hours, and then anything at nighttime, make sure that you're equipped with the right lights on your drone, because if you don't have those and you're flying at night, then you can get in big trouble for that. So you have to fly at or below 100 miles an hour. Drones can go up to 120 miles an hour. So while you're flying, just stay under 100 miles an hour. This one is very important. So you must yield the right of way to manned aircraft. So if you see a helicopter, if you see a plane, if you see a Jetson, if you see any kind of manned aircraft coming towards your drone, you must yield to them. So the safest thing in that situation is to descend as quickly as possible. Do not go higher, because your focal point might be off and your depth might be off. And lastly, you may not fly over people that are not a part of your operation. So if you are flying from point A to point B, that is different, but you may not be hovering and being stationary over people, especially if you're in a crowded city. Don't go flying around in Atlanta and just hovering over people unless you're doing some kind of search and rescue mission or doing some kind of inspection mission. Maybe you're doing something that you have to go look for bad guys or something. So, hey, there are opportunities of that in this lane, and there are things that we might not think of as somebody who is just getting into flying drones, but there are lanes where drones are being used for good and being used to be able to find bad people that are doing bad things, or be able to find missing people. So if you are doing something like that, then of course it's a different type of project, but just don't go out in the city flying and being stationary over people. And if you're going from point A to point B, then just make that consistent. Don't be hovering over people.